All right, so remember when I said this? It's easily the biggest project I've ever attempted, and it runs a super high risk of failure. So that's cool, right? I mean, who gives up the chance to watch someone crash and burn? Well, I guess it's about time that I gave you some updates on some of these projects that were, had the potential to crash and burn. Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we shoot in a different spot in the old alchemy lab, aka the apartment. And we thank our patrons for supporting such random choices for backgrounds and lighting. Let's talk about that just for a brief second. I'm just using window light today, so it's going to shift because it's cloudy and not cloudy, and randomly the light levels are going to dip and rise, and there's just nothing I can do about it because, well, mostly because I'm lazy, but we already know that, so welcome. All right, yeah, basically what's going on, oh look, here the light's going down right now, you can see it getting darker. Right over there at the normal YouTube set that I have the background set up, I have a potential photography gig that I'm trying to do. And it's set up over there. I can't really move it. I didn't think about that when I set it up over there to do my tests. Anyway, I can't shoot over there, so we're shooting here in front of the hobby desk. Right? This is not a hobby video. This is a project update video for projects that were not necessarily hobby related, of which I had two big ones that were going on. And yeah. Just wanted to give you, it's time. It's time for some status updates on Project X and probably the Rangers of Shadowdeep movie project. Spoiler alert, things are not going so great. It's, but contemporarily speaking right now, things aren't going great for a lot of folks around the world. Way back, like a year and a half ago, I optioned the film rights to Joseph McCullough's Rangers of Shadowdeep game. And I've got plenty of videos on that. You can find them on the channel if you are so inclined. And my plan was to try to turn it into, try to make a movie based on the game. And as far as I got was developing a screenplay and writing a full screenplay and then handing it over to an actual, I am a screenwriter, but I handed it over to a friend of mine who is a much more prolific screenwriter, and I wanted him to give it a shot at sort of cleaning up or just getting his ideas on the draft, the screenplay that I wrote. It took my buddy a lot longer to do that than either of us thought it would. Way back in like February of this year, 2025, I was still waiting for this script that I thought he might have had finished by Christmas of 2024. And he was just kind of struggling with it because one of the main things is that fantasy is not his normal genre. He's only ever written one fantasy project. He's written tons of other things. But I thought that was kind of cool. I thought it would be great to get a sort of a different perspective on it. He's just a good screenwriter in general. The way he writes scripts is great. So I was willing to, let him take the time. So I said, don't worry about it, man. Just work on it. Just do your thing. It just took him a little while longer, like I said, than I thought I was going to. And at some point, I was just feeling sort of in February, late February, I was feeling sort of an itch to just be creative and do something in the filmmaking space because I was kind of, I had been planning, like I was all revved up to do stuff like that. And I didn't have anything to do anything with. Out of like nowhere, I just was like thinking, hey, me and my friends have filmmaking equipment to a certain extent. We know actors, we work with actors, we're friends with actors. And I was just like, man, can I just write something and just go out and shoot it? Something, no budget, just whatever, right? And so I embarked upon what I called Project X, which was a project I specifically did not talk about what it was. I mentioned that I was working on a Project X, but I didn't spell it out or talk about it because I wanted to do an experiment around the idea of keeping the energy of a project contained. It's like a known phenomenon that when you talk about something you want to do, your brain's getting kind of dopamine hits just as if you had already completed that project. And sometimes it bleeds the energy out. And I was like, all right, let me try it. Let me try this thing. I wrote this script in, I don't know, like 3 weeks, which I'm not saying it's a great script or anything. I was just surprised, though, that I banged it out and it just sort of came together. And it was written intentionally to be not even low budget. It was written to be no budget. If I could get people to work on it for free with me, which I did, and we'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, I have the script, feature-length script. It could be like a 100-minute movie, whatever. That's great. It was all set in the woods, mostly. There's a couple of scenes in like an apartment, you know, out on the street, whatever. Most of it is just set out in the woods, and I was like, that's going to be easy. I'm going to go out, take my actor friend out. We'll just step off the road into the woods, and we'll shoot some scenes, and we'll make this little movie. That was the plan. And it kind of worked that way. It was way, way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Just the physicality of stepping off of the road and walking in the woods with camera gear and stuff. There was no way I could foresee how difficult that was going to be. And it was an eye-opening experience. And it has informed a lot of my thought process regarding a Rangers of Shadow Date movie as well. You know, I could have done a short film. I didn't really see too much value in doing a short film. There's not much you can do with a short other than put it in film festivals. And that's great. That's fine. But I was just like, if we're going to go out there and put in the effort to make something out in the woods, is there a way that I could actually could we just make a feature and actually have something that could be marketed or sold or whatever, right? And I was just like, yeah, I can write that. I wrote it, and I was like, this will be great. But another factor that occurred to me was that, hey, if I'm trying to at some point go out and make a Rangers movie, it might be really good if I had another feature film under my belt as a director. You know, kind of like a portfolio piece or whatever, just another feature-length project. I've only directed one other feature. I've shot some features for other people, all indie film stuff, low budget, micro budget stuff. But I have directed my own feature that I co-wrote with a friend of mine. And so I was like, this would be great if I can do this project X, and I'll have another feature under my belt, and hopefully we can get it distributed, stuff like that. It would just be great. It would give me a much better foundation to stand on if I was trying to make a Rangers movie, right? So that was my mindset, and that's what I set out to do. And yeah, starting in I think we started shooting in May of this year, Project X, which is a feature film called, well, you'll see the title in a little bit. We were just shooting 1 day a week. In total, to date, we have shot 13 days, and we have got about 30% of the movie in the can. Not only in the can, but I've edited all the stuff that we've shot, and I've got about 32 to 35 minutes of edited footage, sequentially edited. There's a couple scenes, you know, I mean, it's kind of hodgepodge a little bit, but there's a big chunk of the first and half of the second act that are in the can and edited. And then things kind of turned into a bummer. A little more than 2 months ago, on August 10th, which actually turned out to be our last day of shooting, I got into a fender bender that totaled my car. I was doing 5 miles an hour on a residential parking street, looking for parking at 6 in the morning. I was picking up my cinematographer. We were going to go out to shoot a scene. Anyway, things happened. It's just a bummer that my car got hit in just such a way that it took out basically the driver's side front wheel system, like the whole thing, the axle, the hub, all that. So after all was said and done, the other person was able to drive their car away, no problem. My car could only drive at about 10 miles an hour. There's no way I could take it on the freeway or anything like that. And because my car was it's a 2003 Acura RSX, and just based on the value of the car, it's the amount it's going to cost to fix the car, you know, it just totaled the car. So on August 10th, after that happened at 6 in the morning, I was like, oh man, do we shoot today? We actually went and shot. We just loaded all the gear out of my car, put it in my cinematographer's car, and we drove down and shot that day, which I'm actually glad that we did. And you're going to see some of that stuff that we shot in a second. Yeah, but then I found out that my car was not drivable, couldn't get it home. It was, you know, I don't know, 30 miles from where I lived, and it was a whole hassle, all that stuff. Great. So now I don't have a vehicle. And on top of that, what has also happened right at basically the same time and over the last couple months is all of my freelance work has just disappeared. I've been a freelance videographer and filmmaker for the past 15 years, maybe longer. And this is the worst slump I've ever seen or ever lived through or experienced. It's pretty bad. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that a lot of jobs are going away. It seems like a lot of companies aren't hiring, or I don't know. I know just in general out here where I live in Hollywood, these statistics from like 2022 to now, Hollywood has basically lost 50% of the jobs that they had in 2022 are gone now. There's a lot of people that I know personally that are out of work and just trying to figure out how to get by in this industry that seems to be evaporating. I don't really like these videos where it's all about like a big bummer and everything, but you know, it just is what it is. And I'm just trying to explain where my Project X is at and the other projects and stuff like that and what's happened to them. So a couple weeks after that car accident and the lack of work and stuff, I was like, okay, I need to go find, if I want to finish this movie, I need to go find some financing. I need to crack this nut of this problem of how do you find film financing, which is notoriously difficult and hard because it's very rare for films to make their budgets back unless they have big stars in them or some kind of name recognition, etc. Which this movie does not. This is just was a no budget movie, right? It's just whatever. So we put together a package, me and a couple of my producing friends. We put together a pitch deck. My buddy Beamel asked me if I could cut a trailer or a teaser out of the footage that we had already shot. And I was at first very hesitant to do that because I didn't think, I was like, man, we've only shot 30% of the movie and it's only the stuff towards the beginning. There's none of the like cool stuff, you know, that you would actually cut a trailer out of or a teaser. And so I just didn't do it for like a month. And then my actor friend who stars in the film, Jared, he also independently asked me, he's like, hey man, can you make like a teaser to put on this pitch deck page when you send it to people? And I was like, dude, I don't think I have enough to cut anything out of. But for some reason at that point I was like, you know what? I don't know. Let me sit down with it one night and let me just look at the footage and see if I can cut something together out of it. So I thought I would share that with you today in this video. And you could see a teaser for Project X. And then, you can tell me what you think of it down in the comments later at your leisure, if you want to, especially after you've had some drinks and donuts.
Mr. Roost, the court acknowledges that in the situation described within this case, you acted in self-defense. But you also appear to have exhibited a profound lack of self-control. And I agree with the prosecution that you seem to possess a potentially severe anger management issue.
Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of man. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is.
Does it follow you?
I don't think so. But it's out there. I have one weapon.
pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision.
I ain't ready. Fucker.
All right, there you go. There's the title for Project X. And the movie kind of masquerades as something different than what it actually is. There's only one thing I'm pretty confident in about this film's story, and that is that it is not, I don't think that it's predictable in any way. There might be little bits and pieces that you could predict while you're watching, maybe a little bit, but I really don't think there's any way to predict the full story as you're watching it until you get to the end, which again is intentional, because that's the kind of movies that I like, is sort of things that I don't know where it's going, and if it seems like it's going one way and then it turns into something else, I kind of enjoy that. And now, because of the time of year, it's when I'm making this video, it's October, it's the middle of October, and even if I were to find the full financing that I would need now to finish this film, the project still has to go on hiatus until next spring, because we were shooting everything in the mountains, in the forests, and the weather, the seasonal change now, even though California doesn't really have too much of a seasonal change, up there where we were shooting, it will start to snow, theoretically, if they have enough precipitation, and it's just going to become much colder, and of course the days are shorter, and things aren't going to look the same as when we started shooting in May and shooting through the summer. I could do all kinds of videos on the actual production days of this thing. They were, each and every one of them, a total adventure and crazy hard and just kind of nuts and everything else, but that's not really what this channel is about, even though I sometimes try to make this channel about that stuff. Anyway, but that's a whole other thing. They would be fun stories to tell, but whatever. So basically what I'm getting at is that Slayer is basically on hold at this point due to these factors that I've kind of outlined, which is, again, a pretty big bummer. I really wanted to get this thing done by the end of this year, including post-production, like editing and sound and music and all that stuff, so that I could enter it into the 2026 film festival season. That would be the point. But we're gonna miss that window through various things that have happened, and it is what it is. And I can't stress this enough. The crew that came on board to help make this thing, including the cast and just everybody involved, no one got paid. I mean, everybody was, driving, 70 miles one way to go up into the mountains. And like I said before, I can't stress this enough, going through very difficult days, physically difficult days, to help us all make this project. And they were doing it all for free, and they were just so gung-ho. And that's the thing that crushes me the most. That's the thing that bothers me the most, is that I couldn't get this thing across the finish line, and it just feels to me like I've let these people down and squandered their time and their effort and their enthusiasm, and that's what bothers me the most, personally. It sucks. It really sucks. So I hope to finish this thing and make it what I want it to be, if for no other reason than to give to the people that worked on it something that they can give them something in return for their time and effort and blood and tears. Where does that leave us with whatever else is going on? So back to the Rangers project, I still have that option until May of next year. So it's, I still have it for another 6 months. But to be perfectly honest, I am full of doubts, which I know is a bad thing to be full of. And it's hard for me to see through some of that fog of doubt. But now, having seen how difficult it is to make something out in the woods, you know, and I don't know. I'm not sure what I can do with the Rangers project at this point. I think I know what I need to do. I just don't know how to get there. Like, I can have this script and I need to go to a studio, or basically a studio. I need to go find a lot of money to make that movie work. Like, to make a Rangers movie work, not a short film, like a feature film, you know, it's millions and millions of dollars. And yeah, there's a whole other things we can get into about the details of why, just the nature of the project, like the nature of a Rangers project, feature film or TV series or whatever. It's an ensemble cast by the very nature of what the game is, right? You have a war band. So you just start to compound things where it was super difficult for us to go out and shoot one guy walking around in the woods. And then at a couple scenes, we had just started shooting some of the scenes with the other co-lead in Slayer. So we had 2 actors. And it was crazy how difficult it is. And then I'm thinking, like, man, if I'm shooting a Rangers movie, there's like 7 or 8 leads in the ensemble. That's just the Rangers, right? And there's just like, oh my goodness. So it needs a lot of money behind it to do it justice. Sure, could we all just put on like bathrobes, you know, and run around with cardboard swords in the woods, and maybe even then it would still be super difficult and still take us a couple months to shoot a short film? Absolutely. But that's not what I want to do. You know, I don't want to do something that's whatever. And that's not something Joe would want. The more that I've thought about the Rangers project and everything, the more I actually do feel like a feature film was probably the wrong direction to focus on, and a series is probably the better format for a project based on the Rangers IP. It's built for serialization. You know, the way that you play scenarios, the way that you progress characters through a game. It's just, yeah, you can do a feature, and of course I wrote one, and I actually like the script. It needs some work, obviously, but I do just like the characters in general. But the game itself is formatted really, it would just be perfect for a multi-episode series. The other question is, of course, is like, well, then I'd have to take it to a studio and pitch it, and I don't really know how to do that. I don't really know how to get into a studio to pitch. I don't know how that's done. I know lots of people do it. I mean, there's lots of screenwriters that somehow get, you know, onto studio lots and pitch. I never can figure out how they actually do it. It really seems to be this sort of arcane, you know, the arcane formula of who do you know? Lots of things come down to that. I mean, that's basically human society, right? It's who you know. Who can you talk to? Who can you talk to that can introduce you to someone else? I just don't know that many people. So beyond this wonderful little update video on these non-hobby projects that were vaguely hobby related, I'm going to keep working on the Cascade, my skirmish game, and I'll try to keep making my weekly videos. I don't want to say this, but the work situation is pretty dire. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. There might be some things that come up that are going to possibly interrupt my regularly weekly scheduled videos. I have no idea. This is the attitude in life of a freelancer. Sometimes it's the fun part. You never know what's coming. At this point, I'm just hoping something's coming. So I will continue to do the weekly videos for Tabletop Alchemy, you know, as consistently as I can. So I think this about wraps up your Bummer of the Week video, and I hope you guys are having a bummer-free week, and you're enjoying your hobby, and you're having fun with that stuff, and getting things done, and being creative, and yeah, enjoying life as much as you can, just like I am. I'm still enjoying life over here. You know, the ship may be sinking, but think of me as a Captain, you know, Jack Sparrow. I'm gonna ride that ship all the way to the pier and step right off it. Whew, smooth. I mean, literally, that one shot is my favorite scene in the entire movie. I love it. All right. Go get some hobby done. I'll see ya.